Now we'd like to invite Mr. Sinan Günal, Managing Partner of Labrys, New Generation Customer Experience. That's his subject. Please welcome to the stage Mr. Günal.
Hello, great to see you here in Antalya. Finally, a lovely weather after some cold days in the weekend. So, what I would like to do today is to share a couple of thoughts with you in terms of some creating exceptional customer experience. We are all customers of some services, some products, but also here in this room, we are also marketers, creating these exceptional experiences. We either sell our own services or products, or help our clients to sell or promote or market their own services or products. So at the end of the day, we are living in an experience economy. So what I would like to do is share a couple of building blocks of creating these exceptional customer experiences. And also at the end, I'll try to introduce you with some controversial topics that I call them, because there are lots of different debates, discussions around those topics. And of course, I have my own views, but at the end of the day, you are free to discuss it, agree or disagree with my comments, and I'll be very glad to share your thoughts, learn your thoughts after the session too. But before going on, I'd like to share a short video about what customer experience have evolved to today. This is a video prepared by one of the vendors that I'm working with, but I believe it explains a lot. So this is today. This is how everything has evolved with all these connections, the digital disruption, and so on.
Yep.
What are we waiting for? We are waiting for people to decide, make a decision, to choose our services or products, right? So creating exceptional experiences relies on how you have an impact on that decision-making process. So it's really important to understand what makes people to decide on certain services or products. That's why I like to introduce you a couple of thoughts. But before we move on, has anyone read this book by Daniel Kahneman? The book is called Thinking Fast and Slow. if you haven't read it, I would definitely advise you to have it in your library, and as Mr. Uzunoğlu said, read it. Practically, it introduces two things about decision making. Two systems, distinct systems in our brains. One of them is called System 1, the other one is called System 2. Practically, we use maybe 85-90% of the time System 1. It's pretty intuitive, it's quick. And System 2 is much more considered. It helps us to think and decide with some substantial evidence. But we don't use it much. We tend to decide intuitively. So all the marketers' goals is to stay on the intuitive decision-making process. So how do we do that? In the intuitive part, we recall automatically. But on the considered side, there needs some aids, or the problem that we are introduced should be complex. We need to be forced to think about making that decision. That's why the intuitive part is fast. We decide like this. We know, we recognize, we auto-recall, and then we decide. But on the considered side, the process is slow. I mean, if you're buying a car, come on. It takes like for months for you to decide on something. You can't just buy it, but you have a feeling, you have your hunches, but you make that research. And also, if there is stress in the environment, or if there are any unexpected events, you stop deciding in a fast manner, but you switch again to the considered decision-making process. And especially these considered responses are very much affected by the context. So it's really important in what context I'm in while I'm understanding a phenomenon. So I'll show you a sentence. Susan understood she needed to pull the strings. Does that mean something to you? But if I show you the second sentence, George called, Mom, the puppets do not stand still. So Susan is most probably playing some puppets, right? So the meaning is derived by the context itself. Think about it. In much of the use cases, much of our life depends on this context. So why do we remember certain things? This is really important. While keeping context aside, practically, created emotions are the key element of remembering, recalling things. Because they act like, a highlighter pen. They just underline that event, that word, that brand, whatever it made us feel, so that we consolidate it in our memories to have a good feeling about it, and it becomes a System 1 object. So there are many rules, of course, in this decision-making process, but I like to highlight 5 of them for you. One of them, these 5, let's list these 5. The attention is 1, consolidation, priming, blanking out, and peekant. So we'll talk about all of them briefly. Attention, let's start with attention. So attention is the new currency. It has limited resources in all our lives. Everybody, everyone, or everything in our life expect attention from us. But you have a limited span. And as marketers, if you remember this saying, this is Henry Ford, right? Back in the good old days, when all these marketing concepts were invented, He was producing something and there were lots of demand. It was perfect, right? So he can clearly say they can choose any color they like as long as it's black. He doesn't care about the demand because the produced material was scarce and everybody was in line to buy one single Ford car. But now, everything has changed. You know, print communication had a competitor just after 400 years in terms of communication channels. But now, think about the last 20 years. Even the last 10 years, 12 years, there was no Facebook in 2007, 2006 in our lives. So we've been introduced with new channels, new communication channels as marketers and as consumers. So our limited attention span has been also disrupted. Now, as consumers, we are using all these channels, and as marketers, we think that we had to be there because our customers, our consumers are there. I mean, I think this is like, putting a frog on the, cold water and start boiling it. We didn't understand that we are boiled. Now, as marketers, we get introduced with each and every channel every year nearly, and we try to get up with the pace. And we try to target our consumers in all over these channels. And how, who, when, where are these guys? Where is the target audience? So this is the key thing, in fact, that we need to address, because the consumer's attention span is getting much more limited every day. So this emotional intensity that we can create, regardless of the channel or regardless of where the consumer is at that moment in time, would be the key to focus our limited attention span in our offering. So attention, as I said, is the new currency, but being relevant about the context, being relevant will win the war. So if we want to be on the front line of this intuitive decision-making process, we should find the right balance in terms of providing that emotional intensity, to provide it on the right context with the right message for the right people. So this is the hardest thing for all of us in this room to achieve. So the second one, consolidation. The consolidation of the memory, of course. So once we just come face to face with a complex problem, we start learning from these complex problems. Once we complete that learning, our short-term memory is freed, and there our intuitive decision-making process is introduced. So now we don't need to work a lot with our considered decision-making process, but now we can get those intuitive decisions immediately, and we can create automated responses. Again, another book. I'm not sure if you have read this one too. It's a book by Malcolm Gladwell. It's called Outliers. If you haven't, it needs to be in your library too. In this book, Malcolm Gladwell introduces 10,000 hours rule. Maybe you have heard this one, even though you didn't read the book. Practically, what it says is, if you work on a simple task for 10,000 hours, it will be automated. You will create automated responses in your body and in your mind. So at the end of the day, it will become an intuitive decision-making, or intuitive action-taking piece for your body and for your mind. So When recalling a consolidated memory, which means that when we'd like to recall a brand, when we like to recall a service as a consumer, especially emotionally charged moments, emotionally charged events are recalled better. Because, as I said, that emotion is like a cement with our memory. It brings everything into one consolidated memory that we can recall immediately. So emotion plays a great role to first extract the memory from our, deep learnings. In order to create these exceptional customer experiences, we have to create those emotional moments associated with our brand or service, and then be the first one to get recalled. This is the second key. This is a great quote from Maya Angelou. Maybe you have heard this one, and I like it most, really. I've learned that people will forget what you said or did, but at the end of the day, they will never forget how you make them feel. This is the motto of today's world, today's marketing business. I'll just wait for the photos. The third one is priming. So what is priming? Practically, all past memories are recalled or often triggered or primed by the environment itself, right? So it's like activating behavior with an unconscious suggestion. It just comes to our mind, but we don't know why. People today are living in moments. This is a concept created by Google. And the thing is that, especially with this mobile revolution, we all as consumers live in micro moments. Even though when you are listening to me here, maybe you are searching for some product or service in your phone, or maybe you are searching for me, I don't know. But at the end of the day, when you go to a market or a shop, you look for the competitive brand's price. This is an actionable consumer behavior nowadays. So it's really important to be at that moment in front of that consumer with the right message, because that is the right time. And if we cannot prime our brand to be recalled the first during that experience, then we are lost. We lose the game. Because we were talking about zero moment of truth, meaning that the first moment when we start searching about some product or service, either it's a wedding planner service or some events or some brands or some laptop brands, whatever. But the experience starts when I just think about buying some service or product. But now we are living in the world of micro moments. You can influence my decision anytime during my process, during my purchasing process. But if you have primed my unconsciousness beforehand, and if you become at the right place, at the right time, with the right message. Because today is the era of being found and being chosen. There are lots of similar products and services in the market, like yours. Why should a consumer choose you? You should make them remember you, right? So it's really important to get found and to get chosen. The fourth one is blanking out. Sometimes we are paralyzed while we are making decisions. So stress, in fact, main disorder of our century, is leading to memory deficit. So why do we feel stress? Have you seen this? This has a TED Talk too, by the way. It's not only reading, but you can listen that too. It's a concept created by Mr. Barry Schwartz. It's called the paradox of choice. What is paradox of choice? Think about yourself. You go to the supermarket. You need to buy a brand of shampoo. And you have 100 brands in front of yourself. Which one do you choose? Which one? Any guess? The one? The one you like. Love. Okay. So you go and buy a pair of jeans. You go to one special brand store. There are like 500 SKUs, 500 numbers, 501s, 502s, 503s, 511s, whatever. Which one do you choose? I always choose the same one because I hate choosing. You know, it's a mess for me. And for years, I've been choosing the jean that I hate. But it's simple, right? So practically this is the idea. We always thought that providing choices is great for consumers. But now we are experiencing a choice overload. So the consumers are stressed. The customers are stressed. And you know what? That phenomenon brought us to a period of fearing of missing out. It's called FOMO, fearing of missing out. You know, people do choose something, but they're not happy with it. Because they fear that they missed something by not choosing the other one. The other option, the other brand, the other service provider, whatever. People are not happy investing in your product or service because they fear that they lost something on the other side. This is a phenomenon, this is a disorder, by the way, that's been created by this world, today's dynamics, that's been introduced with this fast matter of communication. So we should always be careful that we connect all the brands and services with our emotions so that people choose us happily. They found us, they find us, they chose us, but at the end of the day, they should be happy. So the peak end, the fifth and the last one. The total experience that you create is of course important, but the best and worst moments are remembered at most. Let's not forget this. Because people practically do not buy goods or services, but they invest in stories, relationships, right? So if you follow Seth Godin, you'll find great insights. He's a great marketing thinker. I like him very much. So today's keyword for the marketer is sociographics. We should start working on the attitudes, beliefs, values of our consumers, of our target audiences. And in such an environment, in such a fragmented environment, we should start using the abilities that technology provides us. For the time being, as marketers, we always stayed away from technology, marketing technologies, advertising technologies, customer experience technologies, whatever. We try to leave it for the CIOs, but no. This is the time to get engaged with the right kind of technology. There are a vast amount of technologies around now, but we should start working on these. Because if they don't recall, they cannot choose. And it's up to us, to marketers, that how they are going to recall us, our brands. So new generation customer experience exists when you create the reason to be chosen. Customer is the new asset in our balance sheet. Up until today, unfortunately, the CFOs ruled the world. But now customers dictate what we should do. So it should be the asset in our balance sheet. And we should reorganize ourselves, disrupt our silos, and create an organization around a customer-centric view and profile. So finally, I will introduce these 4 issues, which I tell that these are controversial things. And I'm ready to discuss anything, but I don't want to take it long, so I will just go fast in order to, leave way for you to go to the lunch before you die from hunger. So I'll just go over the topics quickly. So the first one is audience marketing. Until today, we were all talking about some demographic segmentations. But now, with that limited attention span, fragmented within lots of different channels, now we have to, it's really hard to talk about audiences, but we have the tools to do it. We have to start getting rid of the traditional demographic segmentations, but we should start talking about audiences. Because there are lots of people in this country with some specific interests, which also exist. The same segment exists in India, in Russia, in South Africa, and in United States. If you can create meaningful audiences for your services and products, you will find the right people, the right audiences. It's not only about geographies, it's not only about demographics, but it's all about the audience segments that you need to target. And you should be channel independent. You should not rely on one single channel. It's not only demographic, but also behavioral. You should track the behaviors of the consumers. And of course, only technology can help you achieve this, goal, because it's boundless. And you will need to follow the footprints of the customer. As I said, you should be at the right place, at the right time, with the right message. And of course, you need to personalize your message for the right audiences and for the right context. So this is one of the most important keys. And when I talk about this, most probably you've been talking about some digital channels of communication, but no, these are loading. We are going to be able to target people, target customers in a personalized fashion, not only on social media, but in all over the channels that we know of, in outdoor, in TV, in radio, you name it. We have those infrastructures today, so you should be ready to understand what's going on. The second thing is privacy. I'm not sure if you follow Marketoonist, Tom Fishburne. He creates great marketing comics. So today, everybody is talking about privacy. Everybody is creating legislation. All countries are creating legislation about privacy. But at the end of the day, consumers are asking to get known, right? When I go to that jeans shop, if the guy knows me and gives me the jean that I want, I would appreciate. Or in a hotel, if I'm visiting that hotel, if I'm continuously, and if I'm a loyalty member, if the receptionist knows me and knows my preferences, I'll be delighted. You know what? If he doesn't know me with my information already in his system, and if he doesn't respond me in a way that I expect, then I get angry. This is today's fashion. I expect people to know me because I have given my information in a value exchange. I have provided my information and I ask for value. So think about sharing information as a value exchange. What do you provide as a brand or as a marketer to your customer or consumer as a value? Does it worth it? If it doesn't worth it, there are backlashes. So people go after legislations. But if it worth it, everybody is going to provide you with their information, because that is our most valuable thing. And we expect value in exchange. The third thing is being sincere. As brands and service providers, we have to be sincere. And sincerity is not honesty. It's more than honesty. It's really meaning what you say. And you should stand behind it, behind your words. You should demonstrate it. And this sincerity, in fact, is not a new thing. Jennifer Aker is a great, well-known marketing academic. And this model was presented by her in 1997. It is in the marketing context, in the textbooks. It's already there. This is not new. We knew it. But sometimes we lack to, expose that we know it. So once that personality is there, that brand personality is there, and the right experience is created, then comes loyalty. And people start to be the love marks. This brand is not here because you all love it, but this is here because they are sincere. They defend what they do, what their brand promises. They even take into account to get a clash with their own government for delivering a criminal's call logs. Maybe you'll recall this from 2 years back. They just defended that they cannot provide any information of their users, of their customers to FBI. So if you defend something, defend it. Be there. Be sincere. And the last thing is purpose marketing. You need to have a cause. And it pays off. How many of you have heard about Patagonia? Great. It's an outdoor brand. Outdoor fashion brand. And in 2011, they have introduced this worn wear program with this ad on the left. They said, don't buy this jacket. How come? The meaning of their existence is to sell some fashion garments. And they say that, don't buy this jacket. So they introduced this worn wear program, and it really paid off in just 1 year. They have created repair shops in lots of cities in all over North America. They made people get inclined to have some repairs on their new coats, but not buy new ones. And according to a couple of researches, especially with the millennials, 55% of people are willing to pay extra to buy something from a company that has a purpose. That's why all these benefit corporations and all are introduced in the world in the last decade. And especially millennials rely on businesses to help them to have an impact on the future of the world. So as companies, as businesses, we have some responsibility on our shoulders. And for Patagonia, in fact, as I said, it paid off financially in just a year. This worn-wear program just provided 33% sales increase at its first year and a 10% more in the second. So once you have that cause, it's really important to defend that too, because sometimes we forget that consumers are emotional human beings, but not segments. So thank you very much for your time just before the lunch. I'm really delighted to be here. Thank you.